everyone, Shawn Clement here for Golf WRX, and boy do we have a nice one for you today about the fairway wood. I know you've seen a lot of videos insofar as how to not top a fairway wood in the fairway, and this one is one of the more important ones that you're going to see for sure, because it gives you some incredible visuals and it puts you on the right task in order for you to get that success. And you'll see how very much successful you're going to be after this video, okay? So let's first and foremost look at, why you're topping in the first place. And it all boils down to focus. I want you to know that you're totally not defective. You got 2 arms and 2 legs and you're insurable. You can do this easily, okay? So you'll notice that the bottom of the fairway woods are nice and round and flat, just like a nice skipping stone. So keep that in mind. And if you see a ball on the ground and you put the club next to the ball and you're thinking, my gosh, there's so little loft on that, how do I get the ball airborne? And because you don't have the dynamic state in which how that ball gets airborne, and these, our launch monitors, like the GC Quad, have really helped me show my students how easy it is to get a ball in the air. So you basically need just 2 degrees launch to get a ball airborne, okay? And I'm going to show you afterwards how we hit drivers off the deck. My driver is 7.5 degrees, and I can often get, with 7.5 degrees, I can get up to 18, almost 20 degrees of launch, depending on how high the tee is. So if we go back to the ground here, what I'm trying to do with the sole of the club is deflect off the ground like a stone skipping on water. So if the sole of the club deflects along the ground, it will bring the club face to the ball. Now, here is a fabulous tool that you can get at your local hardware store, actually your local internet hardware store, because they're not going to leave these on the shelves for kids to play with. It wouldn't be a good scene. So I've got 2 golf balls teed up. And if I'm just cutting grass, if I got short grass right here and I'm just trimming that short grass, my brain is seeing the grass and it senses that the sole of this grass whip has to stay along the surface of it. You can actually hear it deflecting along the grass. Hear that? So now, if I cut through, and obviously you're not cutting through one blade of grass, you're cutting through a nice section of grass. So if I cut through the 2 tees that you see here before you, well, obviously the golf ball is going to just fall to the ground. So I got 2 dandelions right here that I'm cutting through. See that? So all I had to do was cut through the stems fly, and notice the golf balls just fall to the ground. So my grass whip basically stayed along the surface of the grass right here. Now, if you look at, if I swing the driver, or pardon me, even this 3-wood back and through without stopping, I'm going to use this tee as a reference. Watch where the club actually deflects along the ground. So if I'm cutting grass in both directions, cut, 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 cut. Notice how it's cutting on this side of the tee on the way through. So there's where it would actually start hitting the ground. So I catch the ball, then it cuts the stem, then it stays along the ground all the way to there. I'm going to put a little video in here about with Dustin Johnson doing a very simple greenside chip out of light rough. And wait till you see where the grass comes out. It's very much the same way with the fairway wood, okay? So you should see it right here, above my head in a split screen. So the club comes down, catches the ball, cuts the stem, continues down to cut the grass, and that's where you see the grass flying out, is after that impact position. So if all I do, and this is what's so much fun about the machine, if I'm cutting grass with just one arm, this is where ball position comes into play. If I'm cutting grass with just one arm, notice the center of that machine is my right shoulder socket. And you see how the blade keeps brushing the grass right underneath my shoulder socket. And you can see that it's brushing a nice wide section. So the center of that machine is my shoulder. If I take both arms and bring them together, well, there's a kinetic chain that occurs. The brain goes to the ground, uses the ground to get the body out of the way, cut. So the cut occurs around that lead leg. So the grass being cut's in front of the ball. And then when I cut in the opposite direction, the brain goes to the ground, uses the ground to get my body out of the way, cut. So notice now, from the ball, it cuts into the backswing, and I got this beautiful cut coming back. So without even trying, all I'm doing is I'm whipping the club through. If my ball position is in the right place, I'm going to catch the ball first before I cut the grass. Kind of important, isn't it? So I'm going to put the center of the club head in the center of my feet. Then I'm going to focus on the sole of the club cutting grass along the surface of the ground. So I'm looking for the deflection of the sole of the club along the ground. So here we go. So when the sole of the club deflects along the ground, that ball is still airborne. There we go. Notice there's where the sole of the club actually came to the ground. So caught the ball first, then the grass, and then it exited the grass here. So you're always looking for the sole of the club deflecting along the ground, never trying to lift the ball. So if you see a ball and you say, wow, there's not a lot of loft, I got to help the ball in the air. Well, gosh, what's going to happen now is you're going to sway back. And now you got to try and get below the ball and try to help it up. In so doing, all you're going to do is top it. You're going to be topping it with the bottom of the club with the weight staying on your back foot. So there's nothing wrong with that particular motion. It's just not a golf motion sending a ball to the target. It's just an attempt to try and lift the ball. Problem is, there's a big ball underneath. You can't get beyond that. The ground is in the way. You're going to need some serious digging tools, and then you're going to need to levitate the ball in the air so that you can get under the ball and lift it up. So you see how these tools are not designed to lift, for you to lift the ball. The tools are designed for you to follow the ground with, and the face of the tools is what puts the ball in the air. It's that loft. So back to that driver. So I've got a 9-degree driver here from ping that I cranked down to 7.5 degrees. So you notice there's not a lot of loft there. But if I let the sole of the club deflect, hear that sound? And if the ball position is in the correct place, then all I got to do now is just focus on the sole of the club deflecting along the ground when I'm whipping it out there. So I'm just going to whip it through the grass along the ground. And there it goes. So the launch angle on that was about 5 degrees, and that's all the ball needs, okay? When the air gets underneath the golf ball, it creates lift. That ball with a little bit of spin and the air filtering underneath it, that's all it takes to get the ball to rise. But what we need is spin, and to get the spin, we need the speed. That's the whipping action. So when you're trying to lift the ball, you're just guiding the club and trying to guide it up there instead of whipping it along the grass with a nice slinging action. So if your job, full-time job, was to cut grass all day, well, you wouldn't do this to cut the grass. That's way too difficult. You would take the grass whip and whip it through the grass with ease. You feel like you can do that all day. So let me show you from behind what that ball looks like as it's taken off. All right. So I feel the sole of the club, and I'm just letting the sole of the club whip along the grass towards the garage doors of my building over there. Here we go. And there you have it. Right on the left side of the building, fading back and just cozying up to the left side of the building. Perfect contact on the face of the club. And you notice how the ball was rising. It had a nice rise because I had some good speed whipping along the surface of that ground. So you can see that even out of a divot, if I take my 3-wood here, and here's, look at that. I just put the ball in the bottom of an old divot. All I have to do is let the sole of the club follow the base of the divot. There's the divot I had before. See that? So if it follows the bottom of the divot, it's just going to open up the divot on the front. So all I need to do, let's see where this is aimed. That's aimed to the right of that building. So this ball should come right out just to the right of that building. And all I'm focused on is whipping the club along the bottom of that divot in that direction. Here we go. There it is. Super solid contact. You can see I caught the ball and then I just continued along the bottom of that divot to get the ball airborne. Very simple to do. So focus on what you want to do with the sole of the club, not what you want to do with the face of the club. Enjoy that.